Hello friends, myself Arun. I am an MTech student of IAS College of Engineering. Today I am here to present a topic stresses in soil due to loaded areas based on geotechnical engineering. Coming on to introduction. What is stress? In this case of loaded area, stress can be defined as the force across a small boundary per unit area of that boundary for all orientations of that boundary. Stress in soil is caused by the first or both of the following conditions. The first one is sulfate of the soil and the second one is structural loads applied at or below the surface. That means the stress occurred in soil may be due to its sulfate alone or maybe by both the conditions. Now, estimation of vertical stress at any point in a soil mass due to external loading is essential to the prediction of settlement of the infrastructures like buildings, bridges, piers, etc. Now, coming on to geostatic stresses. Stresses due to sulfate of soil are known as geostatic stresses. When the ground surface is horizontal, the stresses due to sulfate of the soil are normal to the horizontal and vertical planes. These planes are called principal planes, and there occurs two types of stresses. They are vertical stress and the other one is horizontal stress. Now, what is vertical stress? The vertical stress at a depth Z below the ground surface due to sulfate of soil is given by the equation sigma Z is equal to gamma into Z, where sigma Z is equal to vertical stress to be calculated and Z is the depth below the surface and gamma is the unit weight of the soil. That is the corresponding soil particles. Now, horizontal stress. The horizontal stress at any point in the soil mass are highly variable and is given by the equation sigma s is equal to sigma y is equal to k0 into sigma z, where sigma is x or sigma y is the stress at a point x or y distance from where the load is acting. Sigma Z is the vertical stress and K0 is the coefficient of lateral earth pressure at rest, which can be simply represented by the equation nu by 1 minus nu, where nu is the Poisson's ratio. Stress distribution in soil is defined by mainly two theories. The first one is Boussinesq theory and the second one is Westergaard's theory. Now, coming on to Boussinesq theory. Boussinesq in 1885 published a solution for the stresses beneath a point load on the surface of a material which had the following properties. They are semi-infinite, homogeneous, isotropic and elastic. Now, let's see some of the assumptions made by Boussinesq. He considered the soil medium is an elastic, homogeneous, isotropic and semi-infinite in nature, and then the medium should obey Hooke's law. The sulfate of the soil is ignored, the soil is initially unstressed, the change in volume of soil upon application of the load onto it is neglected, the top surface of the medium is free from shear stress and is subjected to only the point load at a specified location. The continuity of stress is considered to exist in the medium, and finally the stresses are distributed symmetrically with respect to the Z axis. Starting with the stress due to point load. This can be found out using polar coordinate r, theta and z. The increase in stress at a given point due to point load P at the surface are observed from the free body diagram of the point load acted, which is shown in the figure number 1. You can see it here. The increase in vertical stress observed to be delta sigma z is equal to P by Z square into IP, where IP is the point load influence, and this can be expressed in terms of horizontal distance r and depth z at which the stress is calculated, which can be seen here, the z and r. Now IP is equal to 3 by 2 pi into z by r the whole raised to 5, which is equal to 3 by 2 pi into 1 by 1 plus r by z the whole square, the whole raised to 5 by 2. In this diagram, we can see the variation of stresses due to point loads, where A is the variation with depth Z, and for the figure B, the variation with the radial offset R is also shown here. So let's take a numerical on case of point load. First question number 1. A concentrated load of 200 kilonewton is applied at the ground surface. Determine the vertical stress at a point P, which is 6 meter directly below the load. Also calculate the vertical stress at a point R, which is at a depth of 6 meter but at a horizontal distance of 5 meter from the point of load. Okay, coming on to the first part of the question. At point P, depth Z is equal to 6 meter, load Q is equal to 2000 kilonewton, and horizontal distance R is equal to 0. Now, by applying the corresponding values to the point load equation, sigma Z is equal to 3Q by 2 pi Z square into 1 by 1 plus R by Z the whole square the whole raised to 5 by 2. The equation becomes 3 into 2000 by 2 into pi into 6 square, which is equal to 26.52 kilonewton per meter square. And now coming to the second part of the question. At point R, depth Z is equal to 6 meter, load Q is equal to 2000 meter, and finally the horizontal distance R is equal to 5 meter. Here, by applying the values to the point load equation, sigma Z is equal to 3 by 3 into 2000 by 2 pi into 6 square into 1 by 1 plus 5 by 6 the whole square the whole raised to 5 by 2. We get the answer as 7.14 kilonewton per meter square. Now the stresses at both point P and R are calculated, and P is observed to be the greater one. Next, we are discussing about stress due to line load. A line load is assumed to have length but no breadth and to be uniformly loaded along its length. In case of earth retaining structures, it is assumed that the wall will be rigid and there will be two line loads on each sides of the wall. Okay, increase in horizontal stress may be determined from the equation delta sigma h is equal to 2 delta sigma x, which is equal to 4q by pi into x square z by x square plus z square the whole square, where x is the horizontal distance of uniformly loaded area. Now, in this figure, stress due to line load is observed, where Q is the load per unit length and Z is the vertical distance from the loaded line to the point where stress to be measured, and X is the horizontal distance between these points. And on next figure, we can see the horizontal thrust on a rigid structure due to a line load, that is PL. The resultant horizontal thrust force can be found out by integrating the strain expression, which implies PL which is equal to integral 0 to h delta sigma h dz which is equal to 4q by 2 pi into integral 0 to h x square z by x square plus z square the whole square dz, which implies PL is equal to 2q by pi into h square by x square plus h square, where h is equal to height of the rigid structure and the position of PL can be obtained by taking area of moments. Next, we are discussing about the stresses due to uniform strip load. The length of the strip footing is very long compared with its breadth. Now, most usually strip footing are uniformly loaded. The problem is therefore two-dimensional, and the orthogonal stresses from the center line can be expressed as delta sigma is equal to q by pi into beta plus sin beta cos beta plus 2 delta, where delta sigma is equal to stress from the center line of the strip, q is the unit area, beta is the angle made by edges of the strip to the point where stress is calculated, and delta is the angle made by orthogonal stresses and the closer edge of the strip. These from this figure the corresponding beta and delta values can be observed, which we have discussed in earlier slide. Okay. Now, stress due to uniformly loaded circular area. For uniformly loaded circular areas, for example, structures like raft foundations, tank bases, etc., the Bossinus expressions are integrated over that area. In case of vertical stress below the center of a circular foundation of a radius a, the load on small element can be calculated by q into r d theta into dr, where r is the distance between delta sigma and the center of the circular area. Then simply by integrating over the circular area, delta sigma z, which is equal to integral 0 to 2 pi integral 0 to a q r d theta dr by z square into 3 by 2 pi into 1 by 1 plus r by z the whole square the whole raised to 5 by 2 by simply integrating like this, we can get the values as we needed. The stress values which we needed can be obtained. Now, from that integrated equation, from that integrated equation, this simple expression is obtained, which is delta sigma z, which is equal to q into 1 minus 1 by 1 plus a by z the whole square the whole raised to 3 by 2, where delta sigma is equal to change in vertical stress, q is equal to load per unit area, z is the depth and a is the radius. Now, coming on to numericals, question number 2. A circular area of 7.5 meter diameter on ground surface carries a uniformly distributed load of 3 kilonewton per meter square. Find the intensity of vertical pressure below the center of the loaded area at a depth of 6 meter below the ground surface. Okay. We have to find the intensity of vertical pressure below the center of the loaded area. Okay, so it is given from the equation depth z is equal to 6 meter, UDL q is equal to 3 kilonewton per meter square. diameter D is equal to 7.5 meter, and from which we can find the radius 3.75 meter. By simply applying the corresponding values to the equation of the stress due to uniformly loaded circular area, the value of delta sigma z becomes 3 into 1 minus 1 by 1 plus 3.75 by 6 the whole square the whole raised to 3 by 2, which is equal to 1.17 kilonewton per meter square, and thereby we got the value of intensity of vertical pressure below the center of loaded area, which is equal to 1.17 kilonewton per meter square. Now, stress due to uniformly loaded rectangular area. This application is most widely used in soil engineering design. The principal expression is for the increase in vertical stress beneath one corner of a flexible rectangular area carrying a uniform load of Q, which can be represented by delta sigma Z, which is equal to Q into IR, where IR is the influence factor dependent on length L and breadth B of the loaded area and depth Z of the point at which the stress is required. Okay. Now, from the figure, the vertical stresses below the corner of a uniformly loaded flexible rectangular area is shown, and the equation delta sigma, which is equal to integral d sigma, which is equal to integral y is equal to 0 to b integral x is equal to 0 to L 3q z cube into dx dy by 2 pi into x square plus y square plus z square the whole raised to 5 by 2, which is equal to q into IR, where delta sigma is the change in vertical stress, q is the load per unit area, and z is the depth. Okay, as we told before, influence factor IR can be represented in terms of breadth, length of the loaded area, breadth and length of the loaded area, and the depth of the point at which the stress is required. So we can express it in terms of B, L and Z. Here M is equal to B by Z and N is equal to L by Z. And the expression for IR is presented as 1 by 4 pi into 2 mn root of m square plus n square plus 1 the whole divided by m square plus n square plus m square n square plus 1 into m square plus n square plus 2 divided by m square plus n square plus 1 plus tan inverse 2 mn root of m square plus n square plus 1 the whole divided by m square plus n square plus m square n square plus 1. Okay. Now coming on to next topic, Newmark's influence chart. Newmark in 1942 constructed influence chart based on Bosniak's solution to determine the vertical stress increase at any point below an area of any shape carrying uniform pressure. This chart consists of influence areas which has an influence or value of 0.002 per unit pressure. The loaded area is drawn on tracing paper to a scale such that the length of the scale line on the chart is equal to the depth Z. Now coming on to the procedure on how to plot an area on Newmark's chart. First of all, position the loaded area on the chart such that the point at which the vertical stress required is at the center of the chart. Then count the number of the influence area covered by the scale by our convenient scale drawing, that is n. The number of fields covered by the scale plan is then counted and the stress is obtained from the equation delta sigma z, which is equal to number of fields covered into IQ into Q, where IQ is the chart of influence value for one field area. Now, figure 10 shows a rough diagram of Newmark's influence chart, where total number of block on chart is 500 and the influence value per block, which is equal to 0.002. In figure 11 we can see one influence area block which is shaded, and figure 12 shows a scale line. Okay. Now, coming on to limitations of Newmark's chart, there were some many limitations found, and they are listed below. The equation and chart needed to apply Newmark's method is based entirely on the principle of theory of elasticity. There are, however, limitations to these theories that one must realize when they are applied to an actual soil. Now, generally soil deposits are homogeneous, perfectly elastic and isotropic. This being the case, some variation from theoretical stress calculations should be expected in the field, and one could expect up to a 30% difference from the theoretical estimates and the field value. These are some of the limitations of Newmark's chart. Now, coming on to the next topic, isobar. An isobar is a line which connects all points of equal stress below the ground surface. In other words, an isobar is a stress contour. Each isobar represents a fraction of the load applied at the surface. Since these isobars form closed figures and resemble the form of a bulb, they are also termed bulb of pressure or simply the pressure bulb. Normally, the isobars are drawn for vertical, horizontal and shear stresses. The one that is most important in the calculation of settlements of footing is the vertical pressure isobars. We may draw any number of isobars for any given loading systems, but the one that is practical significance is the one which encloses a soil mass which is responsible for the settlement of that structure. The depth of this stressed zone may be termed as the significant depth ds, which is responsible for the settlement of the structure. And Terzaghi recommended that for all practical purposes one can take a stress contour which represents 20% of the foundation contact pressure, that is Q, which is equal to 0.2 Q. Now let's have a look at the diagram, figure 13, with the pressure bulb of vertical stresses for both the circular foundation and the strip foundation. As the contact pressure is more in case of this circular foundation, the size of isobar reduces in comparison with the size of isobars of strip foundation. From the figure, two extreme shape cases are represented by uniform circular and strip loading. Strip loading. Uniformly loaded rectangles will produce intermediate values. After 2b, increase in stress is due to the decrease in contact pressure value in case of circular footing, and the minimum depth of exploratory boreholes is usually taken as 1.5 B. Now, in some cases, this depth may prove to be adequate. For example, combined pressure bulbs of adjacent foundations. Now, take a look at this figure. The pressure bulb indicating depth to which soil is significantly stressed is shown in this figure. For both the conditions of single footing and closely placed footings can be observed here, and it's all over. So we come to the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it and gained enough information from it. Thank you very much. Thank you.